My name is Ray Evans. I'm a senior partner here at InfiniTALKS Wealth Counsel, and thanks for tuning in today. It's a terrific presentation, and it's a real honor for us to be able to introduce Linda Dissel, who will be joining us from Federated. And Linda, we get to have you at the very last week of a long and successful career, so we're very excited to have you here. Everybody, Linda is a senior equity strategist and a senior vice president at Federated Funds. And Linda is part of the team that helps formulate Federated's view on market conditions and what their recommended asset allocations are moving forward. Yeah, she's been a regular on CNBC and on Bloomberg and on Fox News, quoted by the Wall Street Journal and Barron's. Linda has a master's from Carnegie Mellon. Her bachelor's degree is from Wharton. She's a CFA, CFP, and CPA. So, and I've sat in on this presentation with Linda. It's terrific. Certainly one of the more topical things of our era. So we are thrilled to have you here, Linda. Again, a reminder, this is being recorded. We'll be glad to get this in your hands or anybody on your side of the ledger at any point afterwards. And with that, I'll get out of the way. And Linda, thanks very much. And let's talk about what we think we know about AI moving forward.
Well, thank you very much, Ray and Lauren, for allowing me to talk to your group today, and for Jen for setting this up today. I have been working for 45 years in this business, now 35 years at Federated, and I travel every week on behalf of our company. And I will say to you that in my travels within the last year, there's been no concern more commonly asked to me than, what do you think about AI? What about this AI craze? And so I decided I should go ahead and study it. And I did do a pretty significant study on this. I will say, though, that I don't purport to be an expert on this topic, but I did dive into it. And I've had the privilege of giving this presentation quite a number of times already. And I want to tell you at the first that the feeling that I get from audiences before I start is one of a dubious nature. They're concerned that AI is going to take their job away, or they're concerned that AI is going to take over the whole world. And so these are legitimate concerns. I will address these concerns, but I do want to emphasize to you that in the course of my studies on this, the one thing that has become clear more than anything else, and particularly in this next 5 or 10 years, is the promises of advancements in productivity that are coming just in time as we need it. As my entire generation, the baby boomers, are retiring. We're retiring, 10,000 of us per day. We need a lot of workers because we're going to continue to live probably a very long time into retirement. And we really do need to increase our productivity. So let's look at the next slide and dive into this entire subject of what is AI. Next slide, please. Okay, AI is exploding. It's absolutely exploding. If anybody in the group doesn't think they use AI, you guaranteed do use it. Look at this wheel, if you will, and look at how much data is created every single minute on the internet. You can see a lot of familiar things, a lot of familiar apps that we use, a lot of familiar things that we do with AI. And I'm always thinking about COVID and how we went through COVID. And I can't possibly imagine what would COVID had been like if we couldn't get our Amazon packages, if we couldn't have the DoorDash, get food sent to us and we're not allowed to go out. Jennifer, my colleague, and I, and we at Federated Hermes, we've been able to really carry on business almost without any event here by being able to do it remotely, where I could travel to 5 different states on one day, if I had to, and I'd have my slippers on, while I was doing it. We've been able to do so much with the advancements already made. Venmo, ways to pay others, email, text, and it just shows you how many thousands and maybe even million texts happen in every single minute. It is absolutely exploding. And now we look at the next chart, please. But here we look at why we're talking about this now and why AI, AI has just exploded here in terms of innovation in this last couple of years. artificial intelligence and in through generative AI. The whole chat GPT thing really just came to the fore, and it really came on strong, as if a phenomenon, really, for the last couple of years. And indeed, it's the fastest technology adoption in history. That's what this chart shows. We look back at PCs back in the 80s, that's the lower line on my chart here, and say, well, how long did it take to get to the 40% adoption rate it only took generative AI for a couple of years? To get to 40%, that was kind of like 12 years back at that time. And that was a huge deal where PCs. Then, in and around the turn of the century, the internet came to the fore. Even as quickly as that was adopted, it took about 4 years. So the fact that AI, artificial intelligence, has just exploded on the scene and around the world has really caught people, a lot of us, like flat-footed, like, what is this? What does it mean to me? Can I trust it and the like? And so if we move on to the next chart, please. And now here we're looking at what even is AI. It's simply artificial intelligence. It's the computer learning things from the 50s in through the 90s, first to help us to teach computers to help us to solve problems or to make predictions based on the learning that we fed it, basically. And in the 90s in through the 2010s, it just only got more in depth, more layers and more complex patterns of data that really brought on things like robotics. And we saw robotics really hit the stage in these couple of decades, and where you saw, more and more of say factories being run in a very quiet way because people's jobs were being replaced by robots, to where we are today, generative AI. What does that mean? It means generating something that is brand new, where artificial intelligence can look at the words or the images or music or speech software code and learn from it, much like we do as human beings, to create something brand new that we had never seen before. That's what we're dealing with today. Next, please. And I like this chart particularly in my presentation because it kind of explains what is going on here within the computer. It is basically a large language model. Here they call it the foundational model in the middle, that takes data, again, whether it be text or images, speech or code, and it trains it with this large language model. Why is it large? It's extremely large. It's using whatever trillions of bits of information that come throughout all of the history of what's in the internet. And it simply uses that to very simply predict, all right, what is the next word to come next? What is likely to come next? So that by going through this large language model, it can learn to do tasks that we would like it to do. Question answering, that's one of my favorites. And anybody here along with me, maybe you're up late at night, maybe your partner's sleeping in bed next to you, and you open up your laptop, and maybe you're like me, you dial up your favorite website. I kind of like Nordstrom. Let's see what's on sale at Nordstrom. And at a moment, a little box pops up at the bottom right, and it says, "Hello, I'm your chat box help. What can I do to help you? What would you like to find?" And the next thing you know, I spent hundreds of dollars, and he's still snoring over there. Sentiment analysis, that's a huge one. That is a big one for corporations. Corporations want to know, if I'm going to spend money, I want to know that it is well spent. I want to know what my customers like, what they want, what they dislike, and I want to use that to improve and streamline the money I spend better. I like this image capturing one. It reminds me to remind us of all. Perhaps you remember a number of years ago when President Obama was the president, there was a viral thing going along the internet. They called it the deep fake at that time, along the internet, where there was President Obama talking to someone, but he hadn't talked to that person, saying words he hadn't said in a place he hadn't been. And yet it looked exactly like him. That reminds us right here to say to everybody on this call, AI is exciting, and there are good guys and bad guys, and this is happening so fast that we need to be very careful what we believe, we believe what we can see, everything we can see. Can we believe everything that we read? And before we really, really do, and please be careful whatever link you click on. And then, of course, instruction following. That's the robotics. And I'm going to tell you right now that within the next 5 years, whether you like it or not, where any of us like it or not, we will see AI in our faces. Probably many, many more robots out there. We're going to kind of get used to it and kind of enjoy what they do for us. But that is what we're really going to see more and more of in terms of instruction following. Next, please. And here we look at kind of the whole thing coming on by storm. This looks at standardized tests and ChatGPT 3.5, which is now kind of old, and then the improvement, ChatGPT 4, and how much better it could do at taking exams, standardized exams. Look at the big bar on the far left there with the uniform bar exam. From just one improvement, GPT could pass with a 90% success rate. Does that mean we don't need lawyers anymore? No, it doesn't mean that at all. What it means is that lawyers have a very handy assistant at their hand, can do a lot of the routine work, search a lot of the historical case law, and make sure again that they verify that this is real, because there have been some examples, I guess, out there of case law that wasn't for real. This is early days, and we have to remember that. But if we move to the next page and the advancements beyond this, you have your very own PhD now for $200 a month. GPT 4.0 is at the bottom of this list. These are other advancements made by competitors that can solve. This shows you on humanity's last exam that tests these large language models over 3,000 subjects, sometimes extremely difficult. And sort of the example question, I clearly don't have time to even read that extremely long question, but to answer unbelievable questions across all manner of study in a very, very short time. This is unbelievably exciting. How smart is AI now? Next, please. And this shows you looking at AI usage largely concentrated in computer, mathematical, and engineering roles. As you can see, the ability to use goes up in time since only just as recently as April 23. Next, please. And it comes just in time because we have a labor productivity problem, a supply problem around the whole wide world. This looks at the year-over-year change in working age population for developed markets in the gray, that includes America, and then for China, the big blue bars. China was all the rage for a couple of decades there, where their working population was growing dramatically. Well, now it went negative, and it will continue to go negative thanks to the one-child policy, which I maintain they will regret for the rest of time, really. It's going to be very, very difficult. But we've also got negative here in the States, and like I said, my generation plans to live a long time. We need some help for the working age population as it can't keep up with us retiring. Next, please. This shows you the same thing. I'll pass it on the interest of time. And move to the next one. The arrow shows where the United States is in terms of AI adoption. And Goldman Sachs' expectation that it could boost productivity by over 1% per year over the next 10 years. That is, boost the growth already thereof by another 1% per year. That's very powerful. We're way at the far end. I'm so glad to be living in this country where we really are kind of ground zero for this. But if you look way at the other end, find mainland China, they're way down at the other end. I will argue to you that mainland China is the biggest competitor that we have, and they mean to catch up. And if for no other reason you don't believe me in what I'm saying to you here today, believe that China really wants to leapfrog us. And so we must stay strong into this AI and advancements here. Next, please. This shows you what kinds of companies are adopting AI. My main comment to you on this page is looking at the right. How does AI help us or take our jobs? You can see automation, the dark blue portion of the pie chart there. That's my job isn't needed anymore. That's automating my job. Augmentation, though, is the bigger piece, and even since I've updated this, has become an ever bigger piece. Augmentation, helping us all to do our jobs better, that's where you'll see more and more growth, and that is very exciting. Next, please. Union workers here, it says, are most worried. 62% say, I'm worried. They're worried about robotics, and they should worry about it, honestly. But not so much we white-collar workers. But if we look at the next page, Look, AI is coming for white collar jobs too. This looks at the change in job openings by Indeed.com just since the second half of 2022. You see those negative signs. The more exposure to AI tasks along the x-axis, the more you'll see negative changes in job openings. Very stark software development. The leader of NVIDIA, which is the poster child for all things AI, has said, if you went to school to learn coding, go back to school because the computer can do a better job than you can of it. Lots of mathematical type jobs are being taken over by this for sure. But like I said, legal is far to the right in terms of the exposure to AI tasks, but they still have job openings or exposure to lots of jobs. We still need our lawyer, much as we still need our therapist, you see there. And a lot on the left-hand side that are safer jobs are the ones that are kind of hands-on. That's what this next chart shows. This chart, I love this chart, even though the writing is too small to be seen. It looks at where people are working today. That's how big those bars are. And then which jobs in the red are exposed to being taken over by automation. They don't need my job anymore. At the very top there is the retail salesperson. About 5 million people work in retail today, and about 90% of those jobs will be lost in 20 years. Retail is going to look a whole lot different in the next 20 years, and that's for sure. There are a lot of jobs like this, a lot of like clerk type jobs, cashier jobs, office administrator type jobs. But what's that big green bar, the safest of all jobs? That's the registered nurse. Me and my generation, we're going to live a long time, and at a moment, we're going to need a lot of nurses. Nurses, those hands-on things, school teachers is in here, therapists, counselors, police officers, people that can figure out this AI stuff, analyze it, and help us all be better at our jobs at our companies. These are where the jobs are particularly safe. Next, please. Now we look at the future of work and play. Here I want to emphasize exciting job creation in healthcare, probably the most exciting industry for my part, but the jobs are more at risk in manufacturing and transportation and storage. I will argue to you, and you'll start to see this in 5 years, probably well over half of the 18-wheelers will there'll be nobody behind the wheel, and those 18-wheelers will probably have a better accident record than the ones that do have somebody behind the wheel. Manufacturing will see a lot more robotics, and that's the truth. Next, please. But if today you're worried, look, manufacturers and service leaders, when asked, what are your plans with AI? And they're saying, we don't want to lay people off. No, the biggest blue bars are retraining. We want our own employee base to learn this to help us so that we can make use of it and, and not become dinosaurs ourselves as a company. And when we look at this next chart, this is kind of my favorite title in this next chart for all of my charts here for you today. Don't fear AI taking your job. Fear the one your colleague who understands it. Because when we look at the challenges that leaders face, number one is we lack the qualified in-house expertise. Please, we know we need to do this. We just don't know how. We need help. And of course, compliance and regulatory concerns. That's a big one early on, certainly. Next, please. But don't be afraid if you've not learned, or if your loved ones haven't learned. Only 29% of companies around the world can even boast that their work base, even a quarter of them understand and have been trained on AI. But that's going to change quickly. Next, please. This looks at generative AI uses at work, definitely for writing and administrative tasks. Next. And these are just some example generative AI, like having an intern with an IQ of 99.9%, somebody that you don't have to pay that works all the time. I emphasized consumer service earlier on the bottom left, chatbot creation. They want to learn how to do better care for customers. Definitely, it's really taken IT on storm. And then on the right-hand side, on the bottom, HR. It's just been maddening for employers. They want to hire maybe a handful of people, and they get thousands of resumes. When they learn how to put down, or how to look for, I should say, filter for specific words to at least narrow down the universe of people to interview. Well, maybe the very smart employee wannabes know those words, put them in their resume. Now we meet for an interview, and I really don't know what I'm talking about, and you're pulling out your hair, and it's very, very challenging these days for both sides. Next, please. This looks at rapid adoption of AI for work and play. You can see overall about the 40% adoption rate, but look at the sort of adoption by age group. Indeed, the youngsters have just been latching on to this. They love this stuff. They've learned it early on. They're playing with it. Look at that 50 to 64 age group. My gosh, Jen, my age group isn't even on this list. And we just really we need to try and dive in and try to learn it, play with it. Don't be afraid of it, but definitely watch what you click for sure. Next, please. Uses of work. What sort of uses? That's that predictive analysis at the top end I spoke to you about. Customer experience, trying to make our experience better. And in fact, if you've ever called a help desk, and you're looking for some help on something, and you wait till after and tell them about your experience, then you may say, I really like this experience. And what you find is that what they have found is that the computer that you didn't even know wasn't a real person gets better marks than the real person does. Productivity tasks, that's where you're going to see a lot more expanses at work. Next, please. And here shows AI adoption progressing at a rapid rate. This is how quickly, just since March of 19, for tech and media, interactive media at the top, but also for others as well. Next, please. Uses at play, there it is. I want to improve my writing and I want to entertain myself, but there's lots more fodder for the future. Next. And it is happening quickly. It's absolutely happening quickly where the infrastructure has already been put together. We're in the 24-25 time frame. Applications. I'd like to explain it's like an app store. Maybe your company's looking to use AI. Well, they're kind of going to an app store to figure out what do they need so that they only buy what they need. And then business gains, you'll be seeing them over time, not a light switch going on, but generally over time. And in through 28 plus, you'll see real gains in productivity in our country. Next. Now, some AI use cases in automobiles. That's been the poster child for this. Anybody who owns an EV knows you're simply driving a computer on wheels, and every time you go out, it learns from that. That's why we're very likely to see many, many, many more autonomous vehicles. Next, please. In healthcare, medical products, radiology has been number one. There have been great advancements already. Here, basically, AI can help diagnose medical conditions that the doctors have been missing. Next. And this shows you in biopharma, because AI can understand our molecules, they can actually design rather than do the trial and error that has been torturing so many drug companies as they tried to make vaccines and other meds for us, where 92% of candidate drugs fail. There'll be far less now because AI can learn and not just hit or miss, trial and error. Next. AI in agriculture, about 40% is susceptible. That's good. That's not the whole thing, but certainly that's very good because we need our land to do more for us in terms of coming up with crops that we really need as we grow our population. Next. AI in online grocery. I don't have time really to take us through this whole thing, but we all learned about this big time when we were in COVID. We had to buy from a grocery online. You couldn't go inside, but after several weeks, it would learn your customer preferences and it would recommend to you things that others bought the same as what you do. Maybe you'll try this, and then there's less product wastage by the supermarket themselves, and on as we someday see it's completely different kind of food shopping. Next, please. In food management, right now you can buy a fridge that knows what you have in your fridge, what recipes you can make with that, what is the nutritional content of it, and even if it is expired without judging at all. Next page, please. And we'll pass this one too, please. AI in retail is everywhere. I can try on lipstick. I can try different hairstyles, different hair colors. I can try on a dress and know that it's going to fit me precisely, and so that we don't have to go to the store, so that we don't have to send things back. This is happening now. Next, please. AI in the restaurant industry, this kind of goes to the sort of kiosks. You may drive up to kiosks. You'll be seeing more in restaurants of robots. It's already happening right now. Come to your table, give you your menu, bring your food, fill up your water. It's happening as we speak. Next page, please. And the same thing at fast food. This helps this young man get it right. So many times we've bought things over the just ordering and you take it home and it's exactly wrong. Better chances now in fast food. Next, please. Can you trust AI? That's huge. Simply said, AI and what comes out of it is only good as what goes in, garbage out. And the garbage is generally, when it comes to general public interest, publicly available information, that's when you can trust it less. But on the other hand, if you are, let's say, a law industry, for example, you can trust it better because the database is specifically targeted to your business and it is deep and it is relevant. Next, please. This is the big one. Lots of trust issues. The boss at the top, he's worried about regulations. They're not nearly in place yet. And he also he's older. Maybe he doesn't understand it. He doesn't want to have to learn it. Maybe he finally decides, okay, I guess I better. Gives it to his employee. Employee says, if you think I'm going to cooperate for AI to take over my job, it's not happening. Or alternatively, hallucinations on the third row down. You can't always believe what you see. You really never could, but you've got to be careful now, especially in early days. There's legal risk, data privacy, leaking risk, and then at the very bottom there, for sure, a limited talent pool. We need people who understand this, who can help us as companies to buy what we need for our own companies to make it worth our while and to keep us in the game. Next, please. This AI challenges this page and the next several, if we could just breeze by, goes to how much energy it takes to get smarter to use. Look at the data center expectations in just 5 years. It takes so very much energy. If you're environmentally conscious, that's a problem. This is a big problem, and they're working on it. And I happen to know that Amazon is setting shop right now next to, with one of its big distribution centers, right next to a nuclear facility, so they can capture nuclear. I think you should expect to read a lot more about nuclear capabilities, and lots of countries even who said we're not wanting to do nuclear, embracing it because we need the energy. Next, please. Here in the United States, in the dark blue, those who are involved in innovations are suggesting that at least our governments are much more innovation friendly in terms of the regulation. It looks like Europe is going to be left behind again, just as they were when the internet came to fore. Next, please. China and the AI race. This only takes you to 2023, but China today has more robots than any country in the world, and if you combine a bunch of them to include the United States. That is not good news. We better stay in this game. They are our big time competitive adversary. Next, please. This asks the question as we get towards the end of our presentation to you, is it too late to invest in AI? And what I want to show you is at the left, at the peaks of other technology revolutions, what was the relative price that you had to pay for those stocks compared to the market? At the peak of the internet bubble, which is the tallest there, we were buying stocks, many of us, without any earnings, in fact, without any revenues. We were buying based on eyeballs. That's what we were doing. That was set for trouble. And then on the far right, you see, in today's, that you see NVIDIA, the poster child on the right. These companies are expensive, but they are nowhere near as expensive as they were at the other peaks. And if we look at the next page, you can see that the earnings and free cash flow today are far more than what they were at the peak of the previous tech bubble. These companies are very wealthy, and so are the companies who buy from them. Next. Indeed, technology has never been so dominant. This is not your, I would say, grandfather, but this is even your 1990s S&P 500. Much more technology based economy and technology in many more of our industries. Next, please. And yeah, AI superintelligence is scary. We're at stage 2 now. People are worried about artificial superintelligence, and it's legitimate to worry about, but not yet. Truly. Next, please. as for me, I can't wait for the humanoids coming to my house. Look at this chart. And by 2020, 2030 and then 2040, and look at the food service robot in the light blue. I absolutely cannot wait for that gray bar, my domestic cleaning robot. I'm going to give him a name, and it's going to be Antonio. Next, please. Now this looks at what level we're at, and those OpenAI execs, they ought to know. They're like, we need to watch this as it advances. No, we do not want AI taking over the world. They suggest we're at level 2 and probably 60 years to get to level 5. But I like to trust and think that, you know, we'll put on these guardrails, and the very, very smart people are going to make sure that it doesn't take over, and we get all the very best from AI. Next, please. In the meantime, I can't help but quote Arnold Schwarzenegger. Anybody seen the Terminator movies? I'll be back. So thank you so very much for your kind attention. I hope I didn't speak too quickly. We got started a few minutes late, and I just love all my slides. So thank you all so much. And Lauren, I suppose I'll turn it back to you. All right.
Yep. At this point, if anyone has any questions, I will allow everyone to unmute in just a moment. So feel free and either raise your hand or unmute yourself.
Linda, I'll start with a question if that's okay. You know, it's the more we use it, the tools become just more fascinating, and it's interesting to me, primarily being a Chat GPT user, how your version knows you more as time goes by, knows what you do, knows a little bit more about you and your family, and also knows the template that you like to have your data returned. Again, primarily ChatGPT 4.0 user. I assume there's not much difference in that regard with the other AI vendors, if you will.
Yes, well, it does. But one chart showed, you know, ChatGPT, and they continue to advance and to invest in advancing, but there's definitely an arms race going on in this respect. And I think that maybe over time, what we'll see is maybe some branching out into more deeper areas than others. That's that one with the PhD that I shared with you, where, you know, not everybody wants to spend $200 a month. Not everybody needs that sort of help, but even like, as you say, Ray, these free versions that we can use now can really help us, and like you say, get to know us. You know, I actually asked uh, ChatGPT just recently to write a letter of recommendation I wanted to give for someone, and I told it all these things, and in my own words, you know, and it came back, and I was like, okay, that's nice, but that's not my own words. And that's the thing about it. Just as you said, the more you use it, the more you play with it, the more it gets to know you and gives you what you want. It really and truly does learn as it goes. And it's been such a helpful tool, as we know, for proposals, for, you know, just for writing and improving our own writing. So many people have gone in and actually said, here, this is what I wrote. Can you make it sound better? And I've heard so many, because I've delivered this so many times already. So many people report it really does look better than what I had. It really did tighten it up. It made it look better. You know, maybe I want to send a nice letter to somebody, and it was, oh gosh, I wish I could talk that sweet. You know what I mean? And so just ever more advances, and it just moves so quickly. That's what I said. I think we really need to just dive in and keep ourselves more and more abreast of advancements that are being made. This whole nuclear thing is just something that I learned in the past few weeks, for example. Advancements in healthcare, so exciting, so very exciting. And we're all going to appreciate that and love that.
Thank you.
Looks like we have a question from Karen. Are you able to unmute yourself?
Actually, this is Mike, her husband. My question is, what do you mean by learning AI? Is it just a matter of understanding how to use an AI chatbot, or is it something more?
Well, it's a rabbit hole, honestly. And we were all introduced to it, just the vast majority of us, with this chat GPT, where when I say play with it, and I mean this play with example I will give is probably 2 years old now. Play with it, ask it questions, see if you can get it to, get it to say things, correct it if it's wrong. Ask it to, you could download pictures, that like pictures or paintings, and say, put me in this painting, for example. Make it just, make it more detailed, more exact, and just go back and forth and back and forth. And what I want to emphasize to you here is also is many of us have used Google over the years. Of course, Google has been very, very helpful. If you ask Google a question, any question, and I'm sure everybody on this call, any question you might ask it, and sometimes it'll come back and you'll say, no, that's not what I was getting at all. Now you have to think, well, how can I adjust my question? And that's not what this is. And in terms of advancements, even actually with Ray, what we've come to learn is more and more advancements are being made. It's like talking another person. What it is having a conversation. No, that's not exactly what I meant. This is what I meant. And it would say, oh, well, I'm sorry. Or for example, you might say, hey, that's not what I read here at all. I read this in this other publication. And it may say, you're right, I was wrong, and correct itself. This is it learning, and this is it learning what you want. So it's like an iterative process, if you will. It's like a soap opera. You start and you just advance the ball and advance the ball and advance the ball, and then play with it in different ways. Just any question on your mind, and it says, ask me anything, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, you may be very impressed. I don't know if that covers off. Trying to think of what else, but YouTube videos are so cool to watch for examples on how to start with it. You know, um,
That's interesting, but it seems to me that the better and more important use of AI is related to the problems of life, like the healthcare and maybe in the area of finance and economics, how to improve efficiencies and things of that nature, rather than just learning how to use a bot.
oh, I agree with you 100%. And though I kind of breezed through my presentation, I do feel strongly that the most exciting area is in the aspect of healthcare and advancements being made, because as I said, AI, we're using AI already. If you're on vacation, for example, and you have an accident and you go to an urgent care center, you may go in and you may get an X-ray or an MRI, or you may talk to a doctor about some virus or whatever, and they may get in touch with your physician remotely, and your physician may come back within 10 minutes. And while you're sitting there, I've actually had an experience kind of like that already. There have been advancements, and I would say just in the last 6 months, I saw somebody talking about breast cancer, which is the most common cancer among women, and 85% of its victims have no evidence of it in their family. And what AI was able to do was it was able to reduce false positives, of which a lot of people do get, by 70%. So you don't have to worry as much as you did with no need to have done so. But also, for every 10 positive results, that the AI was able to identify one more victim of breast cancer that the doctors would have missed. And kind of the advancements, like when we went into COVID, and we all knew, we're like, oh my God, what's going to happen? We knew at that time that it takes 10 years to come up with a vaccine, because you had to do trial and error, because you didn't know for sure who your test audience was. And the way AI can learn about how our molecules work, how they advance, it can fashion and target and make vaccines and medications quicker. It promises very much promises for me as an aging baby boomer in my generation, that whatever our problems are, we could live with it longer. Advances will be made, perhaps even for cures. Young people, maybe or maybe people expecting a baby, maybe they even haven't had the baby, can learn what their child's what their child's genetic workup is going to be, and they may be told, you're going to have to watch out for this, or this is what you might expect from your new baby. So many exciting advances that are promising to be made. And then, of course, the robotics is just going to be absolutely huge, and all manner of that. Probably we can't even fathom what the robotics will be. That, I think, we'll see that more clearly, making our lives better, making us live longer, and just even helping us to learn. But thank you for your question and your comment, sir.
Benjamin, you can go ahead and unmute if you have a question still. Benjamin, it looks like we're having some trouble hearing you. We can move on to our next question unless we get that figured out. Jake, do you want to go ahead?
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hey, so I just wondering if these slides will be available for us to look at a later date, or if that will not be available.
Yes, we can certainly distribute them.
Awesome.
And then we'll send out the recording once we get that compliance approved.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jake. Thank you for that.
Daniel.
Yes, my question was, so you see when we look at like computers or computers being dominated by a few leaders in the industry like Microsoft and Apple, and do you see that happening with AI, that there'd be either a domination or a consolidation of what we see today?
Well, and thank you for the question. That's a difficult one because we don't know exactly how this is going to unfold. What we know is that teaching these large language models takes up a lot of energy. It's a very powerful use of computers. The large language models, again, only a handful of companies have been able. They call them the hyperscalers. That they can use this. And to me, the way I understand it, though I'm not tech savvy per se, is that these large language models will just continue to learn, and from that, software will be created by technical types, by computer analysts and the like, that will be put into what I like to think of as an app store, so that companies themselves they can't make this. Most companies can't make this. Most companies couldn't do what we had up until this time. Even we've had a dominated large company dominated tech space here for a while, as you know, and so that will remain to be true. But we will definitely see splintering off, I think, in terms of software advancement and adjusting it for various companies, various consumer needs. In that way, it should spread out. But and also, I don't know how fast this is going to go. I mean, NVIDIA, which again, as I said, it is the poster child for AI. Why? Because they have the semiconductor chips that are particularly prone for AI. And so that's why they just skyrocketed. They can't make the chips fast enough. And so what they've been working on is the next advancement, basically to do the same sort of work, this intense learning with the transformational model, that they can do this work with less but more powerful chips. And so that's going on. And the best way I can envision this is it's progress. It's progress to become more efficient. And of course, as you, and maybe if you're following this and you know that China over there came up with this DeepSeek, which was far less
Energy
complex,
consumption.
far less expensive. And so you're seeing other countries around the world working on it as well.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Let's go ahead and have Nick ask your question, and then we'll go back to Benjamin, and then we'll wrap it up here.
Hey, Nick.
Can you guys hear me? I don't know if my mic's working.
Yep. Yes, hello.
Awesome. Okay, so my question is, what have you seen companies on kind of like the company side rather than the personal side do to ensure that their personal information is protected while using different AI tools?
So you've got an echo, Nicholas.
Here, let me mute myself so it goes away.
If you put yourself on mute, and I think, gosh, he is on mute. Well, I'm sorry, Nicholas. Maybe you could write in the chat.
Let's see if we can get another question maybe in the meantime. Benjamin, are you able to? We're still not hearing you. Are there any others? Or we're getting lots of feedback.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hello.
Hello. This is Mary Lee, and I am a retired educator at the university level. I have some questions about how AI will affect student learning. Having spoken with colleagues both at the high school and university level, it seems like the temptation to consult AI is a tool for avoiding deep learning, and also a way to force educators to have to teach higher level skills. For example, discernment, skepticism, research, to make sure of the answer that's given. I am just interested in what you think about the future of learning amongst students both at the high school and at the university level.
Yes, Mary, thank you. Thank you for the question. This is one of the most concerning areas that my research has come upon. And it's as I said, with ChatGPT has come on by storm. And so the problem with the educational system is that generally the teacher is older than the student, and the students have just adopted this so quickly, and they found something, you know, some computer can do their homework in 5 minutes, and they don't have to really learn. And there are so many examples, so many. You could look these up, and you could find these online, examples of universities and high schools complaining about this. How do we teach these people? These people aren't going to learn anything. I mean, I'm amazed that it goes all the way through the university level, that students seem to be getting away with this. What I have been able to learn in the last couple of years about this is that in certain school districts in our country, the students have been directed, you'll be expelled if we find out you're doing this. In others, they're saying, we understand this is an eventuality. We want you to use GPT, and then we want you to go in and and critique it or change it. How would you change it to try and make it a learning situation? The title of the chart where I showed you the ability to pass the standardized exams was entitled "Professors Are Having to Resort to Blue Books." A lot of people don't even know what a blue book is. I certainly do. My age group certainly does. I live in Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania is where the headquarters of the company that makes the blue book. And business is absolutely booming. Business is just surging. This is educational, the educational situation where they're like pulling their hair, like, we don't know what to do about this. So it is something that definitely has to be, we've got to make more progress this way. It's very tough for the students in this age, in this time frame. I do know that there is software that's starting to come out that will suggest we can, I guess we can code your questions or whatever to see if they're borrowing these same words, to try and see that it was generated by a ChatGPT type situation, to help the educators to learn that. I also can tell you that students, this is another kind of a student issue, a big time issue, though not exactly what you said, is students going to their guidance counselors and saying, hey, I don't even know what to study. I don't even know if the job I study for will be there when I graduate. So it's a very it's a very exciting time, but a very uncomfortable time. And the education industry is right at the top of the discomfort and the learning that is or is not going on. I hear stories from educators as I travel the country with this presentation, and it's just difficult. There isn't an answer yet, though they're working on it, like ways to prove that you cheated. Or the blue book. I mean, we wrote with a blue book, and we survived it. Of course, they don't know curse with anymore, do they?
Not at all. I think the big concern is that the student has to be learning from the teacher. And so that means the teacher has to be at least one step ahead of the student. So I hope there are learning tools that are being designed that teachers can adapt and use, and so that they understand how to use ChatGPT and other tools to help educate students, not just teach them, but help them learn how to use AI productively.
Thank you, Mary Lee. It's a huge issue.
Thank you.
Can you hear me? Can I try this one more time?
Yes.
You can hear me. Okay, great. I consider myself an AI optimist as well. I feel like you do too. But I was just wondering if you could speak briefly about the dark side of AI, such as AI generating its own code and defending its own survival and creating novel bioweapons, stuff like that. Seems like this conversation's been mostly focused on the positives, but there are a lot of watch outs out there.
Oh, for sure. And well, and you've spoken about some of the biggest ones. That kind of goes to some of the last charts in my presentation, where we're looking at levels of what AI can learn to do and how long it takes. And when I put this presentation together, the scary AI that can kind of take over the world um, is these are just forecasts, and so like I don't even, I don't know how much we can believe them, but my research covered off quite a number of resources. They're kind of coalescing around kind of a 60-year situation, which is to say kind of the upshot for what I have learned as I've been studying this is these concerns are legitimate and they're not immediate right now. So it's definitely something that we need to worry about. And look, if OpenAI and the other leaders of AI, when President, I'm sorry, I'm in a hotel room. When President Biden was the president, then hang on a second. When we had the Biden administration, leaders from a number of at the top AI companies went to DC and spoke to him about, we need to be very careful how far this goes. That's probably 2 years ago that they did that. We need the guardrails. My feeling is there are good guys and there are bad guys. I like to think that the good guys are as many or at least as smart as the bad guys are, and that they're very much looking out for us. I mean, as I said at the very beginning, my very first chart, which looked at the wheel, the wheel that shows we're already using AI. We use AI when we use our credit card, for example, when we go online and we do shopping, and then we get hacked, and that's a bad guy getting into our safety, privacy with AI. And as things stand now they're working on the double encryption, for example. This is the advancements that have already been made because they had to be made because of what's been going on, and and the kind of the urgency to safeguard us. And I mean, and at this point in time, Benjamin, all as I say to groups is be careful what link you push on. Watch for those calls that people claim to be somebody that they're not. And just be very, very mindful. We all must be ever more mindful as the good guys work on making us safer. In the meantime, if your credit card was hacked, if your bank account was hacked, there's every likelihood that you can be made whole. We need to be diligent. That's what we need to do. And for right now, and the lawyer who cited case law because GPT gave it to him, there was no such case law. We need to check our work, even as professionals, if we're going to use it.
All right, if anyone else has questions, if you want to just email info@infinitalkskc.com, and I can pass those along to Linda so she can get your questions answered. But other than that, we'll let you guys get back to your afternoon. And Linda, thank you so much. It was appreciated. And until next time.
Thank you all.
Thank you.